When Kelly Ripa looks back on her decades-long career on Live, there are countless moments of joy, laughter, and connection with viewers that stand out. But there's one morning that remains frozen in her memory forever. September 11, 2001. The beloved talk show host recently opened up about what it was like to be on air during the terrorist attacks that changed America, and how that day shaped her both personally and professionally. It was still early when Live with Regis and Kelly began tapping in New York City. At the time, Ripa had only been officially co-hosting alongside Regis Philbin for a few months. The two were still building their chemistry as a team, unaware that a national tragedy was about to interrupt the usual rhythm of jokes, celebrity guests, and giveaways. "I always remember that day so vividly," Ripa said during a recent interview reflecting on her early years on Live. "It started like any other show. Regis and I were talking, laughing, and interacting with the audience. Everything felt so normal, but in an instant, the world changed. A morning that began with laughter turned into silence. At 8:46 a.m., when the first plane struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center, the Live crew was mid-tapping. Producers began to receive fragmented information from the control room, whispers of a possible accident, then confirmation that something far more serious was happening. "We didn't know what to think," Ripa recalled. "Someone said a plane hit the World Trade Center, and at first we thought it was maybe a small private aircraft. It didn't make sense. And then the second plane hit, and everything just stopped." The show was quickly interrupted as network news coverage took over. Ripa and Philbin were told to step off set as ABC's morning programming switched to live coverage of the attacks. The energy in the studio shifted from lively excitement to stunned disbelief. "I remember looking around at everyone, the crew, the producers, the audience members, and we were all just standing there trying to comprehend what was happening. We were in New York. We could see the smoke from the west side. It didn't feel real," she said. Regis's steady presence and Kelly's quiet grief. For Ripa, who was then still adjusting to her new role, the tragedy tested everything she thought she knew about being a performer. Regis Philbin, a broadcasting legend known for his professionalism and poise, became a pillar of calm that day. "Regis was like this rock," she remembered softly. "He'd been through so much in his career and had this incredible sense of composure. I was the new one, trying to hold myself together. He had this way of grounding everyone, cracking a small smile, checking in with the crew, making sure people were okay." Behind the scenes, the Live staff comforted one another as they waited for updates. Phones were ringing nonstop. Crew members tried to reach loved ones across the city. Many couldn't get through. "It felt like time stopped," Ripa said. "We were all scared, all trying to figure out how to go home, or if we even could. I remember calling Mark Consulos, her husband, over and over again. I just needed to hear his voice." The roads out of Manhattan were jammed. Bridges and tunnels closed. For much of that day, Ripa stayed in the studio with her colleagues, watching the events unfold on small televisions, many of them crying openly. Returning to air, a show with a different purpose. When Live returned a few days later, the tone was nothing like before. The laughter, the games, the easy banter, it all felt distant and fragile. But Ripa and Philbin knew their job was to bring some light to people's mornings again, even if only for an hour. "We weren't sure how to do it," Ripa admitted. "How do you sit at a desk and smile after something like that? But Regis said something that stuck with me," he said. "People need normal right now. They need us to help them remember life still exists." And he was right. The first episode back was quiet, reflective, and emotional. Audience members shared their stories of fear and survival. Ripa remembered seeing tears streaming down faces in the studio, including her own. "I tried to be strong, but I couldn't always hold it together," she said. "Everyone had lost something that week, loved ones, a sense of safety, a belief in the ordinary. We were all processing it together." The day that changed everything. More than 20 years later, Ripa says 9/11 permanently altered her perspective on life and work. It made her more mindful of the fragility of ordinary moments. The coffee runs, the laughter on set, the chatter with audience members before filming began. It made me appreciate connection in a different way, she reflected. When you do live television, you sometimes forget that what you're saying and doing can become part of someone's day, their routine, their comfort. After 9/11, I realized how much that mattered. She also credits that day with deepening her bond with Regis Philbin. We became like family after that, she said. When you live through something so huge, it changes how you relate to people. Regis was incredible. He cared so deeply about the city, about his viewers, about everyone. Watching how he handled that moment taught me so much about grace under pressure. A city's resilience, a nation's healing. In the years since, Live has often paid tribute to the victims and heroes of 9/11, especially on anniversaries. Ripa has said she still gets emotional each time the date approaches. It's impossible not to, she said. Every year, I wake up and remember exactly how that morning felt. The sky was crystal blue, the kind of perfect September morning that's burned into your brain. And then, in 1 second, everything changed. That's something I'll never forget. She also expressed gratitude for how New York came together in the aftermath. The firefighters, police officers, medical workers, and ordinary citizens who showed extraordinary courage. The city became this living symbol of resilience, Ripa said proudly. We cried together, we rebuilt together. You could feel this unity everywhere, in every block, every subway car, every act of kindness. That's the New York I'll always love. Carrying the memory forward. Now, decades later, as one of television's longest-running morning hosts, Kelly Ripa continues to see her role as more than just entertainment. It's about connection, empathy, and community. Lessons she learned on that tragic day in 2001. Every time something big happens in the world, good or bad, I think back to that morning, she said. It reminds me that people turn on the TV not just for distraction, but for companionship. They want to feel seen. They want to feel like they're not alone. Ripa says she still has a vivid image of the skyline that morning, before and after the towers fell. It's a picture that has never left her. I'll always remember that day, she said, her voice softening. Not just for the horror of it, but for the humanity that followed. The way people helped each other, held each other, loved each other. That's what I try to carry with me on the show and in life. And even after all these years, one thing remains certain. For Kelly Ripa, September 11th will never just be a date in history. It will always be a day that reshaped who she is, both as a person and as a voice for millions of viewers who lived through that same heartbreak together.